Okay, hey everyone, thanks for joining this week's InstructLab CLI community meeting. The usual sort of disclaimers and stuff apply. If you don't want to be on camera, you can keep your camera off. But we record this, and I think it eventually gets posted to the YouTube channel. Just skipping to the agenda. There's not a lot on the agenda today, but just as a quick recap, I think there was some discussions that have been happening more recently around how to enable allowing users to download multiple models. Right now, I think what we have is sort of we have
JD, this is the wrong meeting notes.
Oh, is it? Oops.
Yeah.
My bad. Yeah, sorry, I think this is the right one. Apologies. But regardless, I think what I was discussing is applicable because that's like that's like the most recent sort of thing that we've been discussing around the CLI, which is the ability to sort of download multiple models at once. This I think there's been some discussions in some PRs for it. I can find a proposal for that actually. Oh yeah, it's right here. Just to give people some context, currently InstructLab, like you can download models, but like there's a flag and you can kind of only download one model at a time, and you have to sort of do ILAB download for multiple models, like in separate commands. Recently there was an addition made to download multiple models by default, and like it gives users the ability to download multiple models via flags, but the issue is that it's not super well designed because it's just like it was just meant to allow us to download multiple models, like a different model for different default model for the teacher model, which can generate better data, and like a different model to chat, that kind of thing. So currently there is an ability to download multiple models simultaneously in the CLI, but it kind of needs to be designed a bit better and fleshed out to be a bit more robust and maintainable. So one of the things that we've kind of been discussing more lately is how like introducing something in the config to allow users to download multiple models, like suggest like have like a section in the config, something along this lines, to be able to specify models and some metadata, and actually so that we can actually just users can in some way potentially let's predefine all of the models that they're interested in downloading. There's some ideas around how this should be done. Might involve introducing a new section in the config where we define all the models first, and then all other subsections of the config like serve, training, generate, all of those things can reference the models that are defined in the model section. And so there's some ideas around doing that, and I think so that's kind of like one direction that we are sort of discussing how we can do this. And like we don't have a formal issue for this yet. Like all of the discussions kind of just happened on this PR that was trying to introduce something around download management into the config file. So this is where the discussion is currently happening, but we are probably had some plans to like raise an actual issue around how to design this. And I think there's some ideas around like we should be able to do it through the config or potentially through the CLI, through some kind of interactive mode. I know that I think Justin is here, and he had some great ideas. I don't know if he wants to talk about a little bit more. Hey, Justin. But yeah, just to get some folks up on the fact that this is sort of like an area of interest more recently around downloading. And if someone doesn't mind adding that to the agenda.
I threw something on.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, Nathan.
Yeah, I didn't include all the. You can add all the plot tree details. I threw a section on there.
Okay, will do. Thank you. So yeah, I guess I mean that's kind of the context. I don't know if folks have any thoughts or want to further discuss, or they have ideas for how we should manage multiple model downloads. We can discuss that a little bit more if that is the case. If not, we can move on. Okay, sure. We could probably have a discussion on Slack as well after the meeting.
I was gonna say I did put it on the agenda to like show a demo and talk through the idea. I don't know if it'd be best to do that now or just wait for the open discussion. And I'm okay with either one.
No, I mean this is great. If you want to talk about that, that's kind of what this meeting is for. So feel free to do that. Sorry, I didn't see it in the agenda. Maybe it could.
Yeah,
I'll
throw it
just
down
where
there.
to put it at. I put it down in open discussion.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Nah, I say go for it. Honestly, Justin.
Okay. Well, sweet. Hello, everybody. My name is Justin Hale. I'm a UX designer, specifically at Red Hat, and I'm the SME or subject matter expert, and I'll put that in quotations on CLIs. I'm just giving a little background, so you can understand where my point of view is coming from. I'm non-technical, so I don't have a developer background or not an engineer, anything like that. But I tend to try to dive into things head on. So for the last about year or so, I've been working on the CLIs. Anybody familiar with Rosa, Red Hat Rosa? I've been working on I've been on that team for about the last year. So over the course of somebody raised their hand. Oh no, it's just a document. Sweet. So over the course of my work, I've kind of seen how important it is for CLI users to be able to stay in their environment without disruptions. Like if we're inside the CLI, we want to be inside the CLI. We're not using the GUI because of that. And one issue that's already kind of been mentioned when it comes to downloading and managing multiple models, users are forced to leave the CLI, which breaks their current workflow. My solution addresses this by introducing this interactive mode where users can either select from and I may get some of this terminology wrong or whatnot, but they can select from those like previously downloaded or pre-downloaded models that they already have within their config file, or they can enter new ones, but doing this all while staying in the command line. I think this approach will help eliminate the need for context switching, allowing users to stay just a little bit more efficient and complete their tasks from end to end within the CLI. So my overall goal in introducing this is to streamline the process and ensure that the CLI users can maintain their productivity without ever using the environment that they work in. So I have a little short demo here because we're all visual learners. I don't know if I'm allowed to share, actually. So maybe I should.
I can give you share permissions here, Justin. All right, you should be able to now.
Okay, fantastic. This is what I call it's a dirty prototype, but I think it'll kind of get the message across. Hopefully, is my screen sharing?
Yep.
Sweet. So obviously we're here into the CLI. We're going to activate InstructLab and go into our environment, activate InstructLab. The first thing we're going to do is, without using any flags or anything, we want to do that iLab model download. From there, the user would enter that interactive mode. And here now, for those who may not be familiar with the interactive mode, it's just a guided experience for the user that we get to dictate, which is great. And it really eliminates the user error because they can't really go outside of what we're doing. So they've entered the interactive mode, and it's going to prompt them with one or two things. Hey, do you want to download the default models, or do you want to enter new models? And so in our case, we want to enter a new model or new models to be specific. And then they receive those instructions on, hey, this is how you enter those models. So we're going to, in our case, we're going to enter these three models. Hey, here are all our models. So the same information that we would put in that config file, I would expect it to be written here. From there, they've entered or whatever shortcut we want to use and get a confirmation. Hey, are you sure these are the ones that you want to download? We've said yes, and now that download process begins. Things don't always work well, and so we tend to have errors every once in a while. And so I imagine, hey, if an error happens, hey, would you like to try to re-download this? And yes or no. In our case, you know what? We're not worried about that model anyway. We're going to say no, and we're going to move on to our confirmation screen. It shows us what was successfully downloaded, shows us what failed, and it gives us instructions on how to solve whatever error we may have. And then from there, we exit that interactive mode, and the process is complete. So that's all I have. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer what I know, and I'll tell you what I don't know.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing, Justin. I think I like it. I think it's a cool idea. We definitely kind of need something like this. I'm also kind of wondering, like, I definitely have some questions around, like, well, like once we get into the details of, like, okay, we support like Hugging Face and like OCI downloads, and OCI downloads need, like, the URLs need to be prefixed by like a docker :/ that kind of thing. Like, would it? So how would we like account for that kind of stuff, or like would having users maybe like they need to know exactly what the model is called, or like how the URL looks, or like what the org/owner, like they should know exactly what to type out, that kind of thing. I think maybe like some things that may need to be investigated a little bit more, but generally I think we could have this kind of interactive mode. I'm also wondering, maybe we would want to support both workflows, where like if someone doesn't want to do the interactive mode, they should be able to still do this through the config. And maybe if they want to just download a single model, like all of this is too much overhead to fill out the config or do the interactive mode. So maybe should we consider retaining the existing like flag workflow if they just want to do single models like they were able to do before? So like I just have some questions around those. So like, I was wondering what you would think about that as well.
I know the first question that you asked for me is technical, so I have no clue how to answer that one. But as far as the other two, 100% yes. Think users should still have the capability to edit their config files. That shouldn't go away, and the ability to use flags is a standard practice. And so still having that ability to use flags, if there's a flag where, hey, I know exactly what I want to download, and I just want to type this in. Users should be able to do that, and that's pretty standard across CLIs.
Right. Yeah, I think that makes sense. I think yeah, we could definitely investigate, like flesh this out a little bit and see if there's edge cases that crop up and how we would want to handle those. I think this would be really cool to like. This also probably would require a lot of groundwork, specifically around like being able to monitor these individual downloads like jobs. It would kind of almost need us to like under the hood replace the implementation for download, because right now it's kind of just sequential. Like if you want to download multiple models, it just like runs a for loop. I've been thinking about this like independently as well, where it's like if we get into the realm of downloading multiple models, like we want to parallelize them and run them as like separate processes almost, that you can kind of monitor separately, because that's the only way we'd be able to like, if like the second model fails to download, it shouldn't block like the first and the third one. And we to be able to like give this kind of output where we say that, you know, the second model failed, do you want to retry it? So like having the retry logic, and then being able to parallelly download them and have like a standardized UI to show like progress in a consistent manner. Mm-hmm. I think there's a lot of underlying work that would be required to achieve this, but I think it would be pretty cool. Even the even showing like a uniform output, because right now we have like we can download from Hugging Face and from OCI, and Hugging Face has its own like, we like use the Hugging Face download method, and that kind of has its own output which looks different from like, for OCI we rely on Scopio, and that has like its output that looks similar to what you're sharing on the screen right now. So like those are also like very different kinds of outputs. So I think if we wanted to implement this, we'd have to build like some kind of layer on top, which takes all of that information from like the progress from both of these kind of clients and displays them in a consistent manner. So just off the top of my head, like I'm thinking about like the big pieces that would need to happen in order to kind of achieve this idea.
Yeah, and I could link us to some individuals who have some experience in this. I did some consulting with the OC Mirror team, and they deal with downloading large catalogs, and so this is this is the issue that they've had to deal with a lot, and downloading things concurrently. So being able to download, bulks of things all at the same time, or rather going one by one by one. And they have that same issue that they kind of solved when downloading things concurrently. If one thing fails, it doesn't stop the process from everything else. It kind of just starts whoever's next in line, and at the end it's kind of when we summarize what all failed as well. So I don't know if the use case, if a user is ever going to come in here and downloading 100 models at one time. I'm not sure, because I guess we're super early on still, right? But how many items do we actually expect users to download at the same time? Where somebody like OC Mirror, they're downloading entire Red Hat operator catalog, so they're downloading hundreds of items at a time.
Mhm. Yeah, that makes sense. The other thing is also, I think each download like is usually like multiple files. Like if you're downloading like a safe tensor model, it's like it can be any number of files, and like the UI, like I think the way these downloads are implemented, they are already multi-process, where like it downloads all the files simultaneously and it shows you the output for everything, not just like one line to show like overall output. So another decision we'd have to make is display those files all being downloaded in real time, or like condense it into some kind of overall progress percentage the way you have it here. Because like I think if you're displaying multiple files being downloaded at once for multiple models being downloaded at once, that would be another sort of maybe potential layer of complexity that gets added on to like how do you want to actually display all of this. Should it like show all the files for everything at once, or so like I think those are all some pretty interesting questions that are coming to me as I think about all of this. So
no, and that's a good point. I created this for simplicity's sake, and so I don't think we necessarily have to have a bunch of things where we have to keep overlaying and taking out data, and so yeah. So this is purely for simplicity's sake. But I understand exactly where you're coming from.
Yeah, right. I think I would agree. That's probably like that's like having downloading multiple files at the same time is probably like a level of detail that users don't care about knowing.
Yeah,
they probably would just care about like an overall percentage. So
yeah, being a weak or not.
yeah. The other thing is also, I think we support downloading not the whole repository, like for Hugging Face. You can even specify specific file names. So that's because sometimes like there are some like gguf repos where like somebody will take a safe tensors model, and they'll create a new repo for ggufs, which is like just a different way to represent the model, but they'd have like many different quantizations of the same model in the same repo. So like you could take like the Mistral 7B instruct one, like the bloke I think is like a popular account, and like they have they have the same model in different quantizations all stored in the same repo. So like if you really just want one of them, you don't care about having all the quantizations. So like if you pick a specific quantization, you'd only want to download that gguf file, because if you don't specify the file name, then you're downloading the whole repo, which is like the same model being downloaded multiple times in different quantization formats. So, and that I think is not ideal, because that can, multiply the size requirement that you have. So you're downloading the same model again and again, just in different quantizations. So like the need to support expressing specific file names is again like something that maybe it would have to be factored into like the interactive step.
Okay.
Like but that would also have to be, because this is a problem that we have currently, where it's like with the -- repository as it is right now, as of recently we merged a change where you can specify a list of repositories and a list of file names, but This only really works if you do only safe tensor models where it's like all repositories and you just download the whole thing, or it's only GGUS where you have repository file name, like a one-to-one mapping almost. So the second you try to mix and match and say that I want to download this safe tensor repository and this GGF repository with this file name, like we don't have it's not a good UX experience. So there's no way for like users to explain what the mapping of the file names is to the repository. So that was kind of why this whole discussion started, where like what we just merged is it was for a specific use case, just to support downloading multiple models by default, but it has created some use cases that now like edge cases that we need to address. So like that file name kind of specification would have to happen at a repository level. So that's also something that we'd have to think about. But I think this is a pretty interesting area. We may want to just take this step by step, I think, because we just discussed like a lot of huge changes to how we download models. Like we have the config, if you want to specify the config workflow, like that itself has a lot of work that needs to be done where it's a breaking change to the config. So we need to come up with we need to bump the config version, make it a config 2.0. And then if we do that, then we need to also be sure to try to keep some kind of backward compatibility. So that's where I have an issue for managing config versions. That's where that comes in, so that we're able to translate between config versions seamlessly for users. So like that would need to be in place. And then we can say that. And then there's other related issues that need to be fixed with the proposals for having a separate model section in the config. And then if the other sections need to reference the names of the models from that section, then we need to standardize around a format that like means something to everything. Like some of these sections, when they reference a model, they reference like a local file path in like the file system, versus the same thing for downloading. You would want like the URL for like wherever the model is located. So there's like problems like that to be solved. So we need to standardize around the URL format, which should double up as the name and the local, like the relative path in the system, so that you can use the same piece of same string, and it can be used in different contexts in different places. So we have a proposal for that already. So that needs to be implemented before we can implement the config changes, and then we need the config translation. So like we probably want to take this step by step. If we say that we can start with the config version, so that people have a way to run this everywhere, and then we can move on to like the interactive mode later on. So it might need to be spread out across like 2 or 3 releases probably, but I think this is a good direction for us to be thinking in. They would probably solve like a big pain point with having to do iLab download like 20 times if you need 20 models.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks so much for coming to the meeting and sharing the demo. I think that's pretty cool. I don't know if anyone else has any opinions they'd like to weigh in.
I gotta look over and digest it a little bit more, but generally I like the direction. I appreciate both your work on this. This is awesome, and definitely solves, I think, a problem that we have on the horizon where we have more than one default model we want people to be using. So again, thanks a lot, and I'm gonna look over this a little more.
And I'll post the link as well. The
awesome.
total link in the agenda. Red Hat requires a password right now, so you will see a password next to it too, but it should work.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Thanks, Justin.
I appreciate the feedback and all the information.
Cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. And we have the Slack. We can always continue this discussion if people have other ideas. Just start a thread. That's really the best way to keep the discussion going. Awesome. I'm gonna reshare my screen. So moving on, state of CI. I think Nathan added this. Nathan, do you want to talk about this?
Sure. I do. So right now we actually just this morning updated all the Amazon machine images we're using for CI. This is to prep for a new VLM version that we're looking to include in 0.20.0. Everything right now is looking pretty stable. We have the small size job, the medium, and the large. One update on the large is that that's now posting to the same channel, but it's been renamed because we're going to start having jobs from training and eval also posting to that same channel. So I renamed it. So I wanted to call that out. There's one thing, and I know JD, we talked about this a little bit, but the functional test for the OCI downloads is failing everywhere, and it's blocking PR merges right now. Did you have a chance to take a look at that?
Yeah, I did. I looked at it. It's a little strange. I think my first guess is that it's the credentials maybe somehow expired or something, because it's weird because it's failing consistently now, but it wasn't until like very recently. So it's not like
Yeah.
feels like a bit of a flaky test in some sense, where it's not like a problem with the test itself or anything. It's, I think, just that we rely on Scopio, and Scopio relies on like Docker credentials and things like that. So it's a little bit kind of annoying, honestly, to deal with. So I need to kind of look at why it's suddenly not being able to pull from like a publicly accessible query.
Where's it getting the credentials from? Is it like a GitHub secret?
I think it by default it defaults to like referencing like an auth.json file or something. I don't think I specifically added any credentials, so I'm a little bit hazy on exactly how it was able to access it before and why it can't access it now. So I need to look a bit deeper. Most likely, like looking at the logs, I could see that it fails when it says unauthorized access. So I've seen it before, but I don't have like a clear, like a direct like a solution for it. But I'll spend some time looking at it today, because I know that it's blocking every PR, so you should try to fix it soon.
Thank you. And if you need help with that, let me know. Don't be afraid to reach out also to like Dan and Jason and some of the other folks, because I'm sure they'd be interested as well. But yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah, I definitely think that if it might, like, it cropped up now, the way it cropped up now, it can crop up again in like, I don't know, a few weeks or something. There's something weird around that.
Sounds good. Other than that, I don't have any other updates with CI. Basically, I mean, it's the CLI meeting, so I don't want to talk about this too in depth, but I'm trying to add these jobs to some of the library repos just for integration testing to make sure that changes in the libraries aren't adversely affecting the CLI. So a lot of that actually has been merged in. A lot of that work has gotten done this week. And yeah, we're sitting pretty at the moment. I have some ideas for future work, but if folks are interested in that, I have that all detailed in like the E2E epic. And yeah, that's pretty much it for me.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. Appreciate it.
Got it.
Okay, moving on. I think there aren't, I mean, there's the usual reviewing good first issues, but I don't think we need to go through the list again now. Other than that, are there any other topics or open discussion, that anything else people want to bring up? Cool. If not, I think this is a good place to call it. I'm gonna stop. Oh, was I sharing my screen or not? Okay. No, I think that's pretty much all we have for now. So thanks again for joining, everyone. Have a good rest of your Thursday. See you next week.
Thank you, JD. Thanks for running. See y'all later.